The Seattle Mariners had their second homestand of the year, going 4-2 against the Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to talk about that briefly, and then we're going to get into our next matchup starting tonight with the Colorado Rockies. And next, we're going to go to Arlington against the Texas Rangers. And lastly, we'll finish out with some fun segments like we usually do on this episode of Raise the Trident.
Perfect. Right field, bye-bye! A grand slam! Giddy up, baby! That is way gone! That's what I'm talking about. Julio!
Hello, I am Jake from You Love to See It. I appreciate you stopping by again to Raise the Trident, your weekly show about the Seattle Mariners. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. It's free, helps me out a lot. You can also like the video as well. And if you're on audio only on Spotify or Apple, appreciate you as well. Leave a 5-star review and follow the show so you never miss an episode. Today, we have quite a bit to get into. We're starting with kind of what the storylines were from our most recent homestand against the Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds, which we went 4-2. However, basically all of our wins came from the Cincinnati Reds series. So we're going to go over those really quick here. First, starting with the Chicago Cubs. Coming in, we're going to be a tough team. We knew that. I was not expecting a sweep by any means. I was more or less hoping for a series win when we really desperately needed it at that point, and it wasn't going to be easy. I know the Cubs were putting up Shota Imanaga as one of their starting pitchers. I didn't have high hopes for that start, and you know, we were able to get one win against the Cubs. Wish it would have been two, and really our pitching helped us out and gave us the opportunity to do so. All quality starts. Emerson Hancock, Bryce Miller, Luis Castillo all had quality starts in this series, and really it came down to our offense was super cold, which is like what's new for this season so far. Only scored 7 total runs against the Chicago Cubs in 3 games. I don't think you can expect to win series by only scoring 7 runs. It's very unlikely. And it's just kind of one of those series that we already had earlier with like the Cleveland Guardians, where it just felt like it was one thing that was failing and that lost us the game. Usually it was our pitching, sometimes it was our defense, sometimes it was our offense. In this series, it was pretty much just our offense, just could not get it going to be able to get that extra W in the win column. So vibes were pretty low after the Cubs series, not going to lie. The one win came from the Bryce Miller start. He had yet again another incredible outing. He continues to do that, and spoiler alert, did that against the Cincinnati Reds as well. So going into the Reds series, you know, the Cincinnati Reds are not a easy team to beat. We'll put it that way. Especially on the offensive side of the ball, they can get a lot of contact. They can have a lot of power, and they are a pretty speedy team. So I knew that this wasn't going to be an easy series to win. But I had hopes that you know, at the end of the day, I think we are a team absolutely capable of winning a series against the Cincinnati Reds. And I was, you know, feeling if our performance hadn't been what it was, that on paper, it should be a lock to win the series against the Reds. The boys rallied and did a lot more than win the series. They swept the Cincinnati Reds in 3 games in T-Mobile Park. Once again, from the pitching side, and our starters, all quality starts from George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, and Bryce Miller. We had one pitching scuffle the whole time with the bullpen in the 9th inning of Game 2, where Stanek got in a bit of trouble and was pretty close to potentially blowing the game, but we were able to lock it down. The bullpen was amazing as well. Our pitching staff all across the board in this series was phenomenal. They ended up holding the Reds to only 5 runs in 3 games, which you're going to win a lot of series holding other teams to 5 runs only in 3 games. And our offense, we'll just say, broke out quite a bit, scored 17 runs in 3 games. One of the games we ended up winning 9-3. Pretty resounding win, and one that we haven't had yet this season so far. Um, and it was fantastic to see our offense kind of turn it around, and it was turning around for specific people too. One of the games, I know JP Crawford had a couple a multi-hit game. Julio Rodriguez in game 3 had 2 doubles, and then in the game prior I think he had 1 hit and a couple walks maybe. So he had a pretty good series, and one that we really needed. And this was the series when Julio really started to look like Julio Rodriguez. He was making amazing plays in center field. He was hitting the ball with some authority, starting to lift it a bit, which he was really struggling with in the first 15-ish games of the season. He was hitting a lot of ground balls, and you were seeing him start to elevate him. And that's what happens when he does that, is you have 2 doubles in one game. So really awesome time from the offense, and it was really a much needed breakout, because I think if we had went one more series with a really cold offensive performance, I think a lot of us would be starting to get a bit worried. Not like doomsday scenario type thing, because we're still pretty early in the season, but I think you start to kind of be like, this is getting a bit to be a bit too much, plain and simple. And on the defensive side of the ball, we had a great series on the defensive side. I think we only had 1 error the whole series. Especially, I want to shout out Josh Rojas and Luis Urias. They had an amazing time at third base. They were making the defensive plays when they needed to. They were really manning the hot corner the way that we were hoping they would. So, and then Josh Rojas, not going to make this hard to understand. I'm a big Josh Rojas fan. And in game 3, he had a pinch hit first pitch dinger. It was his first of the year. Dude is an absolute dog. And I'm really excited that both Josh Rojas and Luis Urias have had a pretty decent time platooning at third base. It's worked, I would say, pretty well when it comes to our roster construction so far. They haven't really been the problem of why we've been losing games or why our offense has been so cold. It comes from guys like JP Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh has been not great. Mitch Garver, he turned it around a little bit this series. He had his first home run in a Mariners uniform, ambushed a top of the zone fastball, put maybe the least effort swing I've ever seen, but he didn't need to. He got the barrel and he placed it just over Edgar's Cantina in left field. So you hope that that's the turning point for Mitch Garver, because he is capable of being potentially one of the best bats that you have in your lineup. We haven't seen that yet, but I do think it's possible, and hopefully we start to see that soon. And then the other big, storyline is us calling up Jonathan Clase. Dominic Canzone ended up going out during this series, or actually at the end of the Chicago Cubs series, I want to say. And a lot of people thought it was a bit of a rushed call up, and there's still time to tell whether that's true or not. However, he made stuff happen in all 3 games. In game 1, he had an RBI single for his first ever major league hit. Second game, also another RBI single. And the third game, he walked, stole second base, and then was able to get home and score a run on a single, because he has amazing speed. So even though he only went, I think it was like 2 for 11 or something like that in the series, he made stuff happen all 3 games. And when you're coming in and affecting the ball game and affecting what is on the scoreboard, that is all I can ask, especially from a guy who just got called up a lot earlier than he probably should have. So we had to kind of give a bit of a round of applause for him. It was a great time. And now we're going to get into what the next road trip is going to be, where we're going to be heading to Colorado to face the Rockies for 3 games and the Texas Rangers in Arlington for 3 games as well. Starting with the Colorado Rockies, which just announced today. We were supposed to have a game tonight. However, it has got postponed due to inclement weather. So it's going to be made up as a doubleheader on Sunday. Going into it, the Rockies are, I think a lot of people could argue, the worst team in baseball, probably even worse than the Oakland A's. So this is kind of one of those series where you go into it, you probably expect Definitely a series win for sure, and I think it's reasonable to probably expect a sweep. However, I would never put my money on it, but I think a lot of people would actually be disappointed if we didn't sweep the Rockies in Colorado. And going into Coors Field is a really interesting setup and dynamic because Denver is the highest place that we play above sea level. It's about a mile high. Therefore, the ball just travels way farther at Coors Field. It makes it a very hitter-friendly ballpark. It means that when you hit a home run, you really hit a home run. So it's a really good place, I think, for us to hopefully continue our offensive mojo, especially getting it ready to go into Arlington, which is going to be not as easy of a place to hit. So going into the Rockies, I'm going to go over the 3 games. We were supposed to tonight have a series where Emerson Hancock and Dakota Hudson start us out, but I guess that's going to probably be moved to tomorrow on Saturday. So first with Emerson Hancock in game 1, it's pretty simple. He needs to do his job and keep us in the game. That is what is most important when we're talking about Emerson Hancock starts. I think it's potential it could be difficult in Coors Field. However, he is going against the Rockies. So I have trust that Emerson Hancock can keep us in the game. He did it against the Chicago Cubs. We just could not get the W in that game. He's looked fine 2 out of his 3 starts, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then we're going up against Dakota Hudson, who I haven't really heard of before, but looking at Savant page right now, he's a 4.15 ERA on the season. His pitch mix is mainly a sinker slider combo, both around 33 to 37% each. He does have a 4-seam fastball, which is kind of his third in the rotation there. He does have a changeup and curveball as well, but he's once again really sinker and slider heavy. But he only averages at the top end about 91 miles an hour in velocity. So I think we have a pretty good chance at teeing off on him. His sinker is the only pitch he has as a positive run value per Baseball Savant, and his slider and changeup have not been great. And his slider is his second most used pitch right behind the sinker. So when a not good pitch is basically his second in his arsenal, I have to be feeling pretty confident going into that start for game 1. So that's what it's going to be for game 1, Emerson Hancock versus Dakota Hudson. And then, well, I would say game 2, and it pretty much is, but it's going to be the first game of Sunday. We have Luis Castillo was supposed to go against Kyle Freeland, but it was just announced that Kyle Freeland's going on the 15-day injured list. So they are calling up Noah Davis, who has about 31 innings in total at the major league level. 30 of them came last year. And he has a 9 ERA for his whole career so far at the major leagues. So it has not been going very well for him. We could put it that way. As far as his pitch mix goes, he's over 50% sinker. So it's pretty clear he has that one pitch. And then he does have a even split on his cutter and slider. He does have a changeup, curveball, and 4-seam in his back pocket too, if need be. His best pitch last year was his slider. It had a batting average against of .077. His sinker, which he pitches over 50% of the time, had a 400 batting average last year in 30 innings pitched. So I think it's pretty clear that out of all of the games for us to do well, especially on the offensive side of the ball, it's probably going to be this one. I expect nothing less than just a monster day for our offense against Noah Davis. If it's not, and he has a pretty good outing, that'd be, I mean, not to be rude, and it'd be frankly embarrassing. So have pretty high hopes for game 1 of the doubleheader on Sunday. And Luis Castillo's on the mound. I know his first 3 starts of the year weren't great. However, his 4th against the Chicago Cubs, I believe it was a quality start. And it was an improvement, a very clear improvement from his last couple starts. So hopefully he can keep that going against a not good Rockies lineup. And then going into game 3, it's probably the most interesting game of the series. We have George Kirby versus Cal Quantrill. That's going to be the second game of the doubleheader on Sunday before we take off for Arlington. Cal Quantrill is not a stranger to the Seattle Mariners. He was just with the Cleveland Guardians last year. We faced him last year as well. His pitch mix is mainly sinker at 39%. At 29%, he has a split finger, 15% cutter, 8% and 7% on his curveball and changeup, and then 0.8% four seam. He's only thrown it 3 times this year, so very interesting pitch mix to say the least. His best pitcher is his sinker. Has a 194 batting average against right now this year, a 179 WOBA, and 22.4% whiff rate. Quantrill's going to be the most difficult pitcher that we face, I think. He has a higher ERA than Dakota Hudson does, who we're facing in game 1. However, I just think Quantrill spins the ball, and we are not great at pitchers who spin the ball against us pretty clearly. So I think that's going to be the most difficult game to win out of the 3. George Kirby had a great start last time out against the Cincinnati Reds. So I think he can have a good outing, and I hope he does, because if he can have a good outing against Colorado Rockies, that primes him for that start, which I'm going to supposedly see him against the Arizona Diamondbacks on April 27th at T-Mobile Park. So I need good George. That's what I need. I need George's Dreamland to be in a full effect when I see him later this month. So that goes pretty much it as far as the Colorado Rockies series. I know I'm not highlighting any of their offensive bats because there's really not many to highlight. As far as expectations go, as I kind of said earlier, I'm hoping for a series win. I think we should pretty easily get a series win, and I think we have a really good chance at a sweep as well. And a second sweep in a row going into Arlington would mean a lot. I'm not a big fan of the fact that we have a doubleheader on Sunday, because that's the day before we go against the Texas Rangers. So having a doubleheader and then going into Arlington, not my favorite thing in the world. But, you know, some baseball happens, weather happens. I don't know why a place like Colorado wouldn't have a retractable roof, but that's not my business, not my call to make. So then we're going to go over the Texas Rangers series. We have a 3-game set in Arlington. This is going to be an interesting one. The reigning World Series champions, they're pretty beat up right now on the pitching side. We're not going to see Max Scherzer. We're not going to see Jacob deGrom. We are not scheduled to see Nathan Eovaldi because due to the way the rotation works, we should be just barely missing him. So as far as who we're going to see pitch, frankly, I don't really know for sure. I'm assuming we're going to see John Gray. I'm assuming we're going to see Dane Dunning. I thought we would see Jack Leiter, but I had recorded this part talking about Jack Leiter. He just got sent down to AAA, so we're not going to see him. But as far as John Gray and Dane Dunning go, they're going to be tough. It's, I think, kind of a foregone conclusion that they are not going to be easy for us. And this year, just going over their stats so far, John Gray has pitched in 18.1 innings. He has an 0-1 record, 3.44 ERA, 21 strikeouts, and 1.53 whip. And Dane Dunning has a bit of a better record so far in 2023. He has a 2-1 record in 23 innings pitched, a 3.91 ERA, 22 strikeouts, and 1.22 whip. At the end of the day, both of those starters have a below 4 ERA, and my belief is that if you're going against a guy who has a sub 4 ERA, it's not a foregone conclusion about how that game is going to go. It's very potentially they're going to be very tough on you, and we already know Texas is going to be difficult for us. As far as who we're going to be pitching, I think it's going to be Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, and most likely Emerson Hancock. I don't know if Brian Wu is going to be back. I haven't really seen anything to suggest he will be back for that start. I have saw some talks from people about maybe reslotting the rotation. I think the fact that we now have a doubleheader on Sunday kind of screws that up a bit, most likely. Maybe they'll do a spot start for someone when it comes to Colorado, since they are the easier team to face. Maybe, we'll see. But as of right now, if the rotation kept the way it is, it's going to be Gilbert, Miller, and Hancock. We need them all to pitch really well. Right now, the Rangers offense is top 10 in batting average, top 10 in on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, and strikeouts. So I think the name of the game for that series to win it is our pitching pitching the way we know that they can. Have a lot of confidence in Gilbert right now. I normally probably wouldn't have had too much confidence in Miller. However, he's looked great this year. It's very clear that the splitter that he added to his arsenal is really helping him a lot against his opposition, and it's going to be a lot different than what they saw last year when they did face Bryce Miller. So feeling good about that. Don't feel good about the Emerson Hancock start. I was feeling a little bit better when that was probably going to be against Jack Leiter. However, that's not the case anymore. So I think we have a good chance to win the series. Of course, it's a divisional rival. If we can win the series, that's going to be great, because I want to, of course, beat everyone in our division and have the tiebreaker on them, regardless of however it goes in September or through September. So that's going to be it as far as talking about our next couple series against the Rockies and the Rangers. Let me know what you think. If you comment down below, how do you feel like we're going to do in Colorado and in Arlington? I'd love to hear from you. But we're going to end this out and some of our normal segments, starting with Ben Ranieri from the Sea Level Substack. If you haven't subscribed to him already, go do it. Read his work. He's a great writer. He does a lot of cool stuff with the Seattle Mariners, and he's going to do his prospect recap of the week, mainly talking about, unfortunately, Colt Emerson being down and a couple other things. So we'll get it right into Ben.
All right, welcome back to the prospect recap with Ben Ranieri here from Sea Level. We got some good news and some bad news this week on the prospect front. Most notably, let's start down in Modesto. The Modesto Nuts, that roster we know is a really, really fun one. But Colt Emerson goes down with an oblique injury. We don't have a ton of reporting, as we typically don't with minor league injuries. We don't know necessarily what the significance is of Colt Emerson's injury. But this is unfortunate on a lot of levels. It's not as catastrophic as a broken bone or some sort of surgical thing here. But an oblique injury usually takes a while to come back, so they're going to have to be patient with Colt Emerson here. But obviously really, really unfortunate. And it's probably going to delay him making it up to the next level here, which would be Everett for him. That sucks, and it also sucks for me because I can't go over and see him over in Missoula quite yet, over in Spokane, which is the easiest place for me to go watch Colt Emerson. But it's unfortunate for Colt Emerson. Hopefully he's back here soon. One interesting note I did find on the Modesto Nuts, they have hit 14 home runs already this year, led by Aiden Smith with 3 and Johnny Farmelo with 3 as well. The next closest team has hit 7 home runs. So the Modesto Nuts are slugging it down there, but obviously the Colt Emerson injury, that really sucks. Ben Williamson is really one of the only notables down there in Everett. He does not have a home run yet, so you want to see a little bit more pop from Williamson, but he's still hovering right around 300, hitting 298 so far with a high 700s OPS. If he can start to get some pop moving forward, he'll end up in Arkansas here soon. Speaking of Arkansas, Tyler Locklear leading the team with 3 home runs, including 1 on Wednesday night, an absolute bomb. He will be an interesting one to watch moving forward. I would assume he ends up in Tacoma by the end of the year, but a college guy, they might be pretty aggressive with him if there is some sort of need at first base or DH at some point at the big league level this year. He could be a guy that gets the call, but he's swinging it really, really well down there. And then Logan Evans started on Wednesday, threw the ball really, really well once again. You can see the stuff kind of starting to take form, not getting a ton of whiffs yet. So that'll be something important to pay attention to. I think as soon as he starts to get some whiffs, that's going to be a big sign that stuff is starting to translate and that it's starting to play down there. But he's been very productive. Guys aren't squaring him up super well. He's doing the job. He's taking the ball. So I'm looking for Logan Evans to start getting some more whiffs here soon. And then in Tacoma, one guy that I was really paying attention to after a slow start, Cade Marlowe. Cade Marlowe, obviously up with the big league club at times last year. He has hit in 5 straight games now. He's got 6 hits, 7 hits in his last 5 games. So Cade Marlowe really starting to swing the bat well. Keep an eye out for him and how he continues to develop, because when Cade Marlowe gets hot, he gets really hot. Thank you guys for joining me here today on this week's Prospect Recap. I'm Ben Ranieri. Check me out at Sea Level. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you to Ben for doing that once again, the prospect recap. It's really good that we know what's going on in our minor league system. So I appreciate him accepting to inform the masses about what's going on in our farm system there. Really tough news for Colt Emerson. Having that oblique injury is difficult because it's not like he needs surgery. However, obliques can be very nagging and they can last quite a while and be an issue. So hopefully he heals really soon from that. He is a very young kid, so his body is going to be, getting better a lot quicker than it would be for like a Mitch Haniger or something like that. So yeah, but otherwise, really, once again, thanks for Ben for talking about the prospects and what's going on in our farm system. Next, we're going to get into my two unpaid interns, Joe and Colton, as they give you the Raise the Trident weekly update.
Jackson Holiday for the Baltimore Orioles, 25 at-bats. He's batting a $140. Not even a $140. He's batting 040. I can't read. It's casual Friday. I don't know how to read anymore. We're just here vibing on the Raise the Trident
Sunglasses.
podcast. Exactly. Gotta push those back up real quick. They're not prescription, so forgive us if we can't read. Jackson Holiday, 040 so far. He struck out 14 times in 25 ABs. Maybe the Orioles were right keeping him down in AAA to start, because other prospects like Colton Cowser's off to a great start. Jordan Westberg, another guy that's hitting well for the Orioles, but Jackson Holiday not living up to the hype. Colton, we were talking about Jack Leiter, made his debut against the Tigers, our division rival Rangers. The Rangers ended up winning that game, but Jack Leiter not looking good.
Would you say that he got lightered up?
Can you lock in for me?
Yeah, no, they did not win that game due to Jack Leiter. I think he gave up 7 runs in 2 2/3 or something like that.
It was 3 1/3, 8 hits, 7 earned was the final.
Yeah, it was ugly. And I didn't know that today was his debut. I thought it was this week, later this week. So I tried to pick him up in our creator fantasy league.
Good thing you
Shout
did.
out, Jake. I did.
Oh.
But that doesn't go through until Saturday.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
So I didn't get the negative points for that. Yeah, I mean,
wait, no, that's an L. I need you to get the negative points.
I know.
I need
I'm
a
playing
bigger
you.
gap.
So yeah, I don't know. Prospects, the debuts for these guys haven't been so great. Jonathan Clase has had a pretty good debut and has been pretty decent so far at the big league level. I'd say better than both Holiday and Jack Leiter, just as we all suspected.
Of course.
But yeah, in recent days, it's been a little bit rough for the prospects, but who cares? You know what? We're talking about the big leagues here, Joe. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about our power rankings, Joe. Top 10. Where are we at?
Well, I can tell you that the winning Texas Rangers on this fine Thursday that we're recording for casual Friday, the division leading Texas Rangers did not make the top 10, ladies and gentlemen. Screw the AL West. We're an irrelevant division at this point. The Cubs coming in at number 10. They are just a half game behind the Milwaukee Brewers for the division lead there. Number 9, Tampa Bay Rays. They're doing all right. They're doing okay this year so far. I mean, they're doing what they do. They're 11-9. Colton, hit us up with number 8 here.
Yeah, number 8, we do have the Phillies. And what were they in their last 10, Joe? The Phillies in their last 10 are 7-3.
Yeah, big ups to the Phils, bro.
11-8 on the season. Yeah, so the Phillies have been off to a really hot start. The Brew Crew, obviously we know how things went for the Mariners versus the Brewers. We have them at our number 7 spot here. They're coming in at 11-6, 6-4 in their last 10. They did just lose Christian Yelich, which is unfortunate for them and that offense. But overall, that team is still, they can hit. They can hit and they can definitely pitch. So really good for the Brewers. And I was going to pass it to you, Joe, but I get to talk about the Royals. Okay.
No, I was going to say, if you even tried to pass it to me, I was going to yell at you. So please,
that's right.
Don't ever try and let me talk about the Royals, because 1, I'd throw up. And 2, you deserve it.
Who predicted the Royals were going to win the World Series during the offseason? Me. All right. And they're 12-7 right now with a 7-3 in their last 10, ahead of your division winners that you thought would win the Central in the Detroit Tigers that are 10-9. So shout out Royals, Joe. Tell me about the top 5.
I'm a little upset because the Tigers did get off to a pretty hot start, but they have slowly kind of come back down to earth. Obviously did not make our top 10, not even the top 5. Baltimore Orioles coming in here at the 5th spot. The young guns swinging out there in Birdland, 12-6. Not the division leaders of the AL Beast, as they would call it, but Orioles are looking really good so far. And a sneaky team here in the top 5. Some more Central love. Cleveland Guardians. kind of sneaky so far this year. Obviously, Shane Bieber gone for the year is going to be tough for them, but the bats are hot right out the gate for the Guardians. 10-3 on the road. They do not want to play in Cleveland. Keep them on the road the entire year. I wouldn't want to play in Ohio either, okay? I don't blame them. We're not going to Ohio. They're playing on the road. They're going to dominate the entire season on the road. Guardians, you know what? I'm joining the Guardians bandwagon. I'm abandoning the Tigers. Anything but the Royals for me in the Central. Anybody but the Royals. I will finish out here with the third and let you hit up the top two. Number 3, my 116 or however many games I had them winning. Maybe it was 111. I don't know, it was 114. Los Angeles Dodgers, they're 12-9. Haven't won a series in a bit. They're scuffling. They're not looking as good as I think a lot of people would have expected, other than you, because you're on another National League team's hype train there. But 4-6 in their last 10. We're mainly putting them in the top 3 because of the pedigree.
I think that, Shohei brought his Tungsten Armo Doyle stuff with him.
Yeah.
To the Dodgers, man. And, it's been rough to watch. But another team that made a big acquisition this offseason was the Yankees, going out and getting Juan Soto. That's who we have at number 2, is the Yankees. They're off to a really, really hot start so far this year. They're 13-6, 6-4 in their last 10. They have a plus 20 run differential. So, yeah, this Yankees team has really surprised me, honestly. I knew they were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be this good. But that leads us into our number 1 spot. You talked a little bit about the National League team I'm all in on, and that is the Atlanta Braves. That lineup, 1 through 9, is stacked, even with Jared Kelenic having a 700 BABIP, whatever it is. I don't know if it's still that way. But that is even losing Spencer Strider, I'm still putting them at the top of our power ranking because, my goodness, the Braves are just on fire.
I will say, though, coming off a series sweep against Cincinnati, heading on the road to Colorado, our Seattle Mariners in second place in the AL West right now, only a game and a half back of those Texas Rangers. If we sweep in Colorado, we might see the Mariners creeping into some top 10 power rankings list here, finish out, this weekend, 12-10. We're fighting for our first chance at a taste above 500 ball in the 2024 season. Colton, sweeping Cincinnati was just perfect.
It's hard to sweep in baseball, but the Mariners were able to pull it out against Cincinnati. It should be easier to do against the Rockies. Again, hard to sweep. As long as the Mariners get the series win in Colorado, I will be happy. Colorado's a bad baseball team, and we talked a lot about that on our podcast the other day.
Whoa, no cross promotion.
Go follow us. Don't follow But the Rockies, the Mariners pitching staff has finally put it together. And they have been lights out lately, and I think that's going to carry over into Colorado. They need to keep the ball on the ground and keep the ball out of the middle of the plate, and they should be just fine in Colorado.
Jake, we're not mewing. I don't know why you asked us to mew at the end of this, but we're not doing it. I don't know what possessed you to ask us that. We're not just your puppets, bro. It's weird.
It's weird.
It's so strange.
I don't get it. And why is he this way?
I've been asking myself the same thing all week.
Disgusting.
Back to you, Jake.
Thanks once again to my unpaid interns, Joe and Colton. Unfortunately, unwilling to do what needs to be done to satisfy the people in that last request. So you can go, send them comments and scolding them for not listening to the producer notes this week at LandJoe on Twitter and at Colton Swanson. So thank you to them for doing this power rankings this week on the weekly update. I do think that, if we sweep the Colorado Rockies, we'll definitely be in the conversation. It also depends on how we perform, but we have a pretty good shot, I think, next week being in those rankings. So we're going to end this out with our normal weather report and shows what's going to be going on in Colorado. So that's going to be fun. But before I go, thank you for watching. I appreciate you for watching or listening. If you're on Spotify or Apple, once again, there you can leave a 5-star review and follow the show. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. It helps me. Please do it. I'm almost to 300. Help me out with getting there. But that's going to be it from me. And I'll see you in the next episode. Roll the weather report.